අඳුරට තැන් දෙතිය කියන්නේ නෑ අපේ මේ නන්දදේව හාමුදුරුවෝ වඩිනවනේ. හරි. දැන් පටන් ගත්තද?
දැන් පටන් ගන්න ස්විච් එක නම් දාලා තියෙන ලොකු.
ඔව් මොකක් හරි කතා කළා දැන් නෑ නේද?
දැන් මම අහන්න හැදියලා කොහොමද දැන් ඊයේ කතා කරන්නේ කාරණාව. ඒ වගේම එකක්.
සමාධියද?
ඔව් දැන් සමාධිය මම ඇහුවේ දැන් සද්ධා වගේ සද්ධා ඉන්ද්‍රිය වගේ ඒවා භාවනා නොකරන අය කොහොමද හදාගන්නේ කියලා. ඒ අනුවනේ මම සමාධිය ගැන ඇහුවේ. ආන්නේ වගේ ප්‍රඥා ඉන්ද්‍රියත් මේ භාවනා නොකරන අයට යම් ප්‍රමාණයකට හදා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියන පොත් කියවලා යනවා. ඒ ගැන මම අහන්නේ.
මේකත් හොඳ එකක් කියන්නේ.
So the question was kind of continuation or alternation of yesterday's topic and the day before that. The question was last few days there was talk about developing these good qualities or if you like to call them spiritual faculties like faith and concentration for people without meditation. So if they can manage to get the spiritual faculties even if they don't meditate. So today is continuation on that, and that is the last spiritual faculty called Panyindriya. If that faculty of wisdom can be somehow developed without the help of meditation. This is also good. Good question. So if you see Alavaka Sutta, Yakka Alavaka asked the Buddha like sets of questions, and one of them was how does one acquire wisdom? So that one was answered the other day actually. It was mentioned during the class.
Discuss that answer.
It was the other day, like roughly it's like this willingness to listen to the Arahat teachings of the Arahats, teachings that lead to Nibbana. That's a kind of like summary of that answer. But it's like listen well and willingness to listen or learn from them is what leads to acquisition of wisdom.
දැන් ඔය අපිට සම්මාදිට්ඨිය තියෙනවනේ.
We have something called Sammaditthi or so-called right view.
සම්මාදිට්ඨියයි සම්මා සංකප්පයයි.
Which is the first factor of the Eightfold Noble Path is right view. Second one is right thought or right thinking.
ඔය දෙකෙන් පටන් ගන්න අපිට මේ පඤ්ඤා.
So it is through those two that this thing called wisdom is built up or started.
පඤ්ඤාවත් මේ තෙරුවන් සරණ ගියා විතරයි.
So Lokan says this panya or wisdom is there actually only for people that have refuge in the triple J.
ඔව් එහෙම පඤ්ඤාව කියන එක අර වගේම තමයි නික සාමාන්‍ය පඤ්ඤාව ඒ කියනවා. ඉතින් පඤ්ඤා හරිනවා. පඤ්ඤා එහෙම හට ගන්න තෙරුවන් අවශ්‍යමයි.
So there is of course there is something like if you just think in terms of the word just wisdom is there, but this very specific kind of wisdom for that one really needs the refuge of the triple J.
So පඤ්ඤා වගේ තමයි ඉතින් ඔය එක එක්කෙනා දැන් ඉතින් මේ පඤ්ඤා වගේ කතා බහ කරනවා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒ ත්‍රිලක්ෂණ අවබෝධයක් නැහැ.
So people might be talking about things that seem like panya or this kind of wisdom, but actually the true seeing and understanding of the three characteristics is still lacking there. So then it cannot be considered as this kind of specific kind of wisdom.
ඔය ඉතින් අඤ්ඤාවට මේ දැන් සාමාන්‍ය දැන් ඔය කවුරු කාර්යය ලියලා තියෙන පොත් තියෙනව නේද? ඒවෙන් එන්නේ මේ ත්‍රිපිටකයෙන් තමයි එන්නේ.
So also if you want, you can, it seems like, get some book knowledge to help you acquiring wisdom. So for the specific wisdom that we talk of, it's only the Tripitaka, the Pali canon that we have, that helps with that, not books outside of that tradition.
ත්‍රිපිටකේ මුල් කරගෙන කවුරු හරි පොතක් දෙනවා. ඒක ත්‍රිපිටකේ කරුණු තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ඒවෙන් එනවා. නැත්තම් නිකන්
it can be somebody else's book, but based on the scriptures, on the Pali canon. So if somebody writes a book that is solely based on that, then it can be helpful in like understanding.
ඉතින් ඒවා උපකාර වෙනවා පඤ්ඤාවට. එහෙම නැතුව මේ දැන් මනෝ විද්‍යාව කියලා දීලා තියෙනවා ඉස්සර එක එක පොත් වර්ග. ඒවා ඒ තමුන්ගේ මතනේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒවා ඉතින් දිට්ඨියට යනවා. සම්මා දිට්ඨියටත් එන්න පුළුවන්, මිත්‍යා දිට්ඨියටත් එන්න පුළුවන්.
But if it's not really properly based in the canonical tradition, one can get usually different ideas there, especially the author's ideas. Sometimes there are like books that have to do with some form of psychology or things about mind and how it works. But if it's not really based in the canon, then because of these ideas, it leads to different views. Some of them might be kind of acceptable or compatible, but some of them might be wrong.
බුදුදහම වගේම ඒවා තියෙනවා.
There are things that seemingly look like Dhamma, like Buddha's teaching.
හැබැයි ඒක බුදුදහම නෙවෙයි.
But they are not.
ඉතින් ඒවෙන් පඤ්ඤාව හැදෙන්නේ නැති ලක්ෂණය හැදෙන්නේ.
So even though it seems like the same thing, like the Buddha's teachings, but because if it's really not the thing, as a result, one cannot get the kind of specific wisdom or the understanding of the three characteristics.
ලක්ෂණය හැදෙන්නේ යම් උපකාර ධර්මයක් තියෙනවනේ. ඒවා තමයි මේ පඤ්ඤාව හැදෙන්න මුල.
So because it is the things that help you to like know and understand about these three characteristics that are the beginning of panya.
දැන් ගන්න කියනවා හරි දැන් මේ ගිය හදන්න මේ කනුවේ මෙච්චර ශක්තිය තියෙනවා මේ කන මේව තමයි. ඒවා ඉතින් ඒවා මේ පඤ්ඤාවටයි තියෙන්නේ.
So now some people, because the word panya is translated as wisdom, so if you just consider the word wisdom, people might think even some kind of like knowledge or intelligence or even common sense might be this specific panya. Things like knowing how to, like if you are building a house and you need pillars to support the roof, so what strength or kind of things you need to use for the pillars. People might consider that as some kind of wisdom, but this is not the kind of specific wisdom or panya that we are talking about.
ඉතින් ඒවා යොමුලා දැන් අර කවුද මේ කර්මානුවේදී ඕපන් නැයිනේ. එයා අන්තිමට කියන්නේ මෙච්චර නායකයෙක් එක මට මේ ඉලක්කනේ දකින්න වෙන හොඳයි කියලා.
Mong professor, Allah Jatinama.
ඕපන් නැයි
Oppenheimer. So it seems this Oppenheimer, the guy that was the main guy that was behind him, nukes, the atomic bombs, sometime later on kind of said something like, I don't know, but I think we can't say like he was saying we did not venture into this atomic bomb field, and instead of that develop understanding about the three characteristics, it would have been better.
So yeah, මිනිසාගේ නැතිවීම පිණිසනේ. මිනිසාගේ නැතිවීම පිණිස උපකාර වෙනවා. මේ කාමයන්ට ඒක හොඳයි. නමුත් මේ අතරින් මෙතන වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා තමයි ආගේ සිලක්ෂණ පැත්තට හැරෙනවා නම් හොඳයි කියලා.
So the reason, according to my understanding, the reason remains because physics and things like that are behind these atomic bombs. They can be used for also good things as well as really harmful things. And for enjoying sensual pleasures, this development in science can be actually kind of profitable, but it has the delimitation of the sensual world. It is not going beyond. And
that's the power of that.
So I will just finish the idea. So that's why Oppenheimer in the end said, if you like devote yourself to understanding something that goes beyond the world, that is in the end much better idea than developing the science about the world. Anyway, that's the way I understood what Lokhamani was saying.
That's the power of that.
So we will wait a bit because of the rain, making it a continuation difficult.
Negative man, that's a big one. Maganda. ඉතින් ඉන්ද්‍රිය සංවරය අවශ්‍යයි.
Okay, so we can continue as the rain is less now. What is needed is Indriya Samvara, or translated usually as sense restraint or guarding of the sense faculties.
ඔය ඉතින් ඉන්ද්‍රිය අනේ සීලත් අවශ්‍යයි. දැන් සීලය තමයි මුල් වෙන්නේ.
So actually for that, what is like even coming before that is morality or virtue or some kind of following code of ethics.
So then we සීලය ආජීවපාද ඉන්ද්‍රිය සංවරය එහෙම තියෙනවනේ. ඉතින් ආජීවපාද සුද්ධි සීලත් මේකට පඤ්ඤාවට ඕන. ඉන්ද්‍රිය සංවර සීල තමයි මේ කාය භාවනා කියලා කියන්නේ.
So it is, there are like different definitions in the scriptures. It is something like that you need some kind of wisdom actually or panya in order to establish the proper sense restraint or guarding of the sense doors. Kind of goes hand in hand with a kind of wisdom, and it is something like a culmination of the part of virtue training before you get to the higher levels of the.
So kaya bhavana,
and it is called kaya bhavana or cultivation of the body.
Kaya bhavana නැත්නම් චිත්ත භාවනාව නැහැ.
So without this, like literally it is translated as cultivation of body, which is like especially what is meant by that is the sense restraint. One cannot get into chitta bhavana or development or cultivation of the mind.
ඊට පස්සේ චිත්ත භාවනාව පඤ්ඤා භාවනාව.
And once the chitta bhavana or cultivation or development of mind has culminated, then one can enter and cultivate panya.
අර මේ අනාගත බය පහට අනාගත බය පහක් දේශනා කරන මේ සාධනේ මේ කාය භාවනා නැතේ චිත්ත භාවනා නැතේ පඤ්ඤා භාවනා නැතේ භාවනා කියා දෙනවලු.
There is Anguttara Nikaya.
Anguttara
There is a sloka I am now referring to a sutta from Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses, and it's about the dangers, future dangers. So in this particular sutta what is mentioned, there are people that are not practicing the development of the body, not practicing the development of mind, not practicing the development of panya, yet they teach bhavana or development or meditation.
ඉතින් භාවනා කියන
So this
ධර්ම
is one of the dangers for the Buddha's dispensation.
පඤ්ඤාව ඉහළ මට්ටමේ ඉන්ද්‍රියන් වෙන්නනේ.
So it is this when we talk about this development or cultivation, panya is mentioned as the highest one, so at the summit of the practice.
ඉතින් ඒකට මේ සීලය අවශ්‍යයි. ඉන්ද්‍රිය සංවරය අවශ්‍යයි.
And it started up, one gets starts ascending the practice through the guarding of the sense doors, which is part of the virtue or morality section of the practice.
ඉතින් නිවර්ණය යටපත් කරනවනේ.
So what is happening, these nivaranas or so-called hindrances are being suppressed or reduced.
නිවර්ණය ඊට අයින් කළා දැන්.
So once that is managed, then they are completely removed.
මේක ඒකට පඤ්ඤාව ඉතින් එක එක මට්ටමින් වැඩෙන්නේ.
So as the practice continues at different levels, there is some kind of panya working or some levels of panya are appearing in the practice.
දැන් ඡන්ද චිත්ත විරේ විමාංශ. විමාංශය
So there are these what is called roads to power or ways to psychic potency. There are four qualities, and that is will or desire, mind, energy, and vimamsa. So this vimamsa is usually translated as investigation, and that is a kind of quality on the side of wisdom.
So දැන් සතිපට්ඨානේ සම්පජාඤ්ඤය කියනවනේ. ඒ තනිකරම ඉතින් මේ පඤ්ඤාවේ කොටසක්නේ.
So before the practice comes to that, already one starts with the establishments of mindfulness, satipatthana. So within that, you have always mentioned this sampajanya. So this is so-called clear comprehension, and this is pure wisdom in a sense, but it's a level of wisdom.
දැන් සම්පජාඤ්ඤ කාර්යෝති සම්පජාඤ්ඤ මේවෝති.
So what is mentioned there, it's in those two words. One is he is doer, doing it knowingly or being aware, and the other one is thus comprehending.
ඉතින් දැන් සතිපට්ඨානේ ඉතින් සම්පජාඤ්ඤයට ලොකු තැනක් දීලා තියෙනවා.
So
සම්පජාඤ්ඤේ කාණ්ඩේ සම්පජාඤ්ඤ කාණ්ඩ ලොකු තැනක්නේ.
So within the satipatthana practice, so it is generally divided into four according to the establishment or basis, and within the bodily contemplations, one section there, the whole section is called the section on sati and clear comprehension. So we can see this clear comprehension has been given quite a prominent, important place.
සම්පජාඤ්ඤ වැඩි වුණාන් පස්සේ විමාංශා කියලා කියනවා.
So as one is practicing this, what started as sampajanya or clear comprehension or awareness, later on becomes stronger, and it is considered as this vimamsa or this investigation.
ඊට විමාංශාව දැන් ඉන්ද්‍රිය වලට යනවනේ පඤ්ඤාවට.
So what comes next is the 5 spiritual faculties. So if the practice continues and it's strengthened and developed more, what used to be clear comprehension and then later investigation becomes this Panyindriya or the spiritual faculty of wisdom.
ඒක ධම්ම විචය. ඉතින් ඊටත් වැඩි
So later on we have the spiritual powers or potencies, which is like power of wisdom, and then what comes is the 7 factors of enlightenment, Sambojjhanga. So the second enlightenment factor is Dhamma Vichara. This is like investigation of phenomena. So that level is of course like already extremely high up in the practice, is very nearing the summit because it's an enlightenment factor. And when it's mentioned that the enlightenment factor of Dhamma Vichara, this investigation of phenomena, is being developed or cultivated, there is a bunch of words usually used together with that, and that is based on seclusion, based on non-attachment or dispassion, and based on cessation, and maturing in release or this liberation. That means the mind is like really inclining just towards the liberation. So at that point, that this is like really you are getting to the like flows of the practice in a way. So at that point, this what was mentioned in the beginning, that is the right view and right thought, are already being they are like really getting the right part, and they are ready kind of.
Oh, ඉතින් දිට්ඨි සංකප්ප දෙකෙන්නේ මෙතන මේ හොඳට තේරුම් ගන්න. දැන් ඔය කරුණු තේරම පඤ්ඤාවේ කරුණු එකතු වෙලානේ. මෙතන සත්‍යයක් නෑ, පුද්ගලයෙක් නෑ, නිකම්ම සත්‍යයක් නෑ, පුද්ගලයෙක් නෑ කියලා අර වගේ හොයලා බෙදලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. බෙදලා මේ සත්‍යයක් නෑ, පුද්ගලයෙක් නෑ. ඒක වැදගත් නෑ. ඒක අවබෝධයක් නෙවෙයි. දැන් අපි කියමුකෝ දැන් කෙනෙකුට මේ විද්‍යාඥ වගේ මෙතන මේ ඇතලේ මස්නාර බොකු බඩවල් තියෝ වෙන කළ සත්‍යයක් නෑ, පුද්ගලයෙක් නෑ. එහෙම කියන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒක මේ ධර්මයට අයිති නෑ ඒක.
Now this when we say the right view and right thought are like getting ready or are now at that point ready, at that point of the practice, they are already prepared by the preceding practice, and they are becoming the right view and the right thought. Within that, what the wisdom or panya is doing, those are the aspects about understanding what is here is there is no real being, there is no real person there. This is just a bunch of bunch of elements interacting, or interaction of sense bases, or the 5 aggregates just happening, and so on. So this understanding, Lokam says, now we have to be careful because this level of the practice is not just kind of like rationalizing about the situation, because when you, even as scientists, they can tell you, no, this it is like that because if we cut the body, we see just interaction of these biological parts that are kind of just happen to agree to work together and function together as one unit, but it's actually there is like no real unity or no real anything. But this kind of understanding, Lokam says, like he calls it like cutting away and dissecting until you cannot find anything, like because if you keep on dissecting, you will just find emptiness and nothing real there. So that kind of rational thinking is not what is meant by this kind of wisdom. It is like outside of the field of the real wisdom. Because this understanding that this is just the sense basis working, or elements or aggregates, is very close to this Uchedavada, or this what is called nihilistic, or we can actually call it pure materialistic view, and that is the danger.
ඔය සීල සමාධි ප්‍රඥා වලින් සීල සමාධි වලින් ඉන්න එක ප්‍රඥාව ඒක නාම රූපේ වෙන් කරලා ආයතන වෙන් කරගෙන ඒක එන එකක්. මේක නිකම් බෙදලා අම්මා නැහැ කියන්න පුළුවන් තාත්තා නැහැ කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඔච්චේද වගේ.
So because from the side of the practice, one has based the practice on virtue and by purified virtue and like top virtue. One's mind got to settled and concentrated, and through that, these kind of specific inner understandings of what is happening are like become visible and being understood. So that is one complete thing, whereas this kind of scientific dissecting or dividing is completely other thing. Because if you use this rationalizing thinking, you can end up saying, I have really no mother, this like what you call mother, there is really nothing like that, and so on.
තර්ක කරලා රත්යක නැහැ පුද්ගලයෙක් නැහැ කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක ප්‍රඥාව හැදිරන්නේ මේ තර්කයෙන්. තර්කය නිතරම සත්‍යයෙන් තොරයි.
So this kind of like something that is like hammered together by reasoning, or if we can even say philosophizing, results that one gets through that, they don't fall under true wisdom. So this philosophizing, Lokam says, is always outside of what is called the truth, which is the big T.
තර්කයෙන් ගන්න නැතුව ප්‍රත්‍යක්ෂයෙන් අවබෝධයෙන් ගන්න ඕනේ වෙන්නේ. අවබෝධයේ තර්කයට යන පෙරක්ලයට.
So of course sometimes by this rationalizing and thinking, one can get to the true wisdom. And that is what Lokam calls, like experiential, using one's own experience, understanding those things.
So ප්‍රත්‍යක්ෂයෙන්
You
ගන්න
don't
එක
have that like maybe realizing wisdom, if you like that. So that kind is completely different to the one that is just the rationalizing things. Sometimes this rationalizing can assist somebody to get the realizing thing, but the realizing understanding is a completely different thing from the rationalization.
දැන් ඔය අපිට ප්‍රඥාව හැදෙන අවබෝධය දැන් පොත්පත් ඉගෙන මේවා කියව ත්‍රිපිටක කියවීමෙන් හැදෙනවා.
So there is a kind of realizing that can be assisted or like nurtured by studying, that means understanding of scriptures or information.
ශ්‍රවණයෙන් හැදෙනවා සාකච්ඡාවෙන් හැදෙනවා.
So likewise one can get the information from books or from hearing. So based on this like learning, and one acquires some kind of understanding, and then can help to the realizing understanding.
ඉතින් පරියත්තේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය දෙක එකතු වෙලා ඒකම ගිහින් තමයි හැදෙන්නේ. නැත්තම් හැදෙන්නේ ප්‍රඥාව. ප්‍රඥාව වගේ දේවල් කතා කරන්න කියන්න පුළුවන්.
So what is mentioned, Lokam mentioned these two words, so this one of them is the first word means something like teaching. It's like teachings or informations that you have about something is the one level. Based on that, one gets the practical understanding that arises from practice and from practical things. Like first then experience understanding.
පරියත්තේ දැන් පරියත්තේ කිව්වම ඉගෙන ගන්න දෙයක් නිකන් අර දැන් මේ බාහිර ඉගෙන ගන්න ඒවා නෙමෙයි. දැන් උගත් දෙනේ කම්පියුටර් ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. කොරින් පොන්යාවන්ති මේ දැන් මම කම්පියුටර් කොහොමද දන්නේ? මට ටෙලිෆෝන් එකවත් හරියට පාවිච්චි කරගන්න බැහැ. ඉතින් ඒවා ඉගෙන ගැනීම නෙමෙයි. ඒවා ඕන ඒවා එපයි කියලා කියන එක නෙමෙයි. වලදුවට තේරුම් ගන්න එපා. මේක අද සමාජෙට හරි ඉක්මනට දැන් ඔය ත්‍රිපිටකය ගාලම හොඳට ඉක්මනට ගන්න කියන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒකේ දැන් ඒවා ඉගෙන ගන්න එක නෙමෙයි මේ ත්‍රිපිටකයේ ධාම ඒ ඉගෙන ගන්න එක මෙතන කියන්නේ. පරියප්තිය.
Okay, so I will just kind of summarize it. So of course there are learning, if we call it learning or studying of some informations or teachings. What we consider here is of course just Dhamma teachings or the Buddha's teachings. Other things like learning computers and information technologies and stuff like that is still kind of learning, and if you are still learning and getting understanding about those things, but that is really not what we consider here as what we talk about. So these things like computers, Lokam says, like some people say somebody is very wise or intelligent because he is computer wizard or something like that. So okay, people can say that, but that has nothing to do with panya or this specific wisdom. Lokam says he himself like doesn't know anything at all about computers. He cannot even operate his smartphone properly. But that does not say anything about this panya. For panya, the kind of teachings that we consider is what is called Dhamma. So these Dhamma teachings are the teachings that are considered as the basis for the learning.
So දැන් අපි කියමුකෝ මේ මට දැන් වචනයක් හොයා ගන්න ඕනේ. මම අර එන්න මේ ඩික්ෂනරි වගේ තියෙන ආකාර කියවලා බලලා තමයි හොයන්නේ. මේ පොත්වල අරයා ඉතින් විගාතම හොයලා දීලා ඉතිස්සෙල්ලා. කම්පියුටර් එකේ. ඉතින් යා කොහමද ඉතින් මේකනේ හොයන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒක නෙමෙයි වමනක් මේ හොයන දේ ඉගෙන ගන්න එකනේ. ඒ මං කියව එක තේරෙනවද? දැන් මේ මට ඊයේ
නෑ තේරුණා හැබැයි ඒ කිවිලා. Anyway, so Lokan said like if he wants to check on some word like specific meaning or where the word is coming from or things like that, or where to find it, because he doesn't have this IT skills, he will have to go to a library and use real books, real dictionaries, and little by little find the references. So then somebody that is computer savvy can very quickly just type it in a search engine and gets the result within like few seconds or few minutes, much faster than the person using the dictionaries. But from this example we can understand this is just about a skill how to quickly find something. It has really nothing to do with this specific meaning of panya.
දැන් ඉතින් ඒකම මම දැන් මට වචනයක් නෝනෙලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් පොතුත් නැහැ මොකක් නැහැ. දැන් කම්පියුටර් කියන ප්‍රයෝජනේ මම කියන්නේ. ඒතකොට දැන් මම ඇවිල්ලා ධම්මටක් විතරයි අවිනීතර කියන මට මේ වචනේ හොයා දෙන්නකො. මේක මොකද්ද තේරුම?
So the computers this is actually good in a way. So especially if you don't have the books available but you have the smartphone, let's say, I need to check this word where to find it. I just ask Venerable Dhammarakita or Vinita and they quickly go and I get the results quite quickly.
ඒකේ ප්‍රයෝජනයක් තියෙනවා.
So there is this kind of use and it is really quite useful for this kind of.
ඔය ඉතින් හැබැයි මේක වෙනම දැනගෙන තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඒක හොයා ගන්න මේවා. පඤ්ඤාව කියන එක මේ අධ්‍යාපනයෙන් පරියප්තිය කළා තියෙන ත්‍රිපිටකය.
So being able to find these words, these people they just cannot do it like without anything. You have to like have some knowledge and study some kind of teaching or information in order to be able to do these computer searches or use the programs or applications. But this is like one kind of teaching or information. What we consider here for the development or assisting one to acquire panya, this specific wisdom, is just the Dhamma teachings, not things outside of the Dhamma teachings.
දැන් මේ සත්‍ය විභාගේ පත්තපන්න විභජන උත්සාහනි කම්මන්ති කියන්නේ දැන් බලන්න ඔගේ පඤ්ඤාව මේ විදිහට යනවා. එතන කරුණු කීයක් තියෙනවද මරජ? විභජන
පත්තපන්න විවරණ විභජන උත්සාහනි
පහක්.
So So in Satya
දේශනා පඤ්ඤපන පට්ඨපන විවරණ විභජන උත්තාන හයක්
ඒ අර ඒක බෙදලා වෙන් කරලා මේ සාමාන්‍ය නිකන් නෙමෙයි. එතකොට ඒක තේරුම් අරන් තියෙන්න බෑ. ඒක පඤ්ඤාව. නිකන් නිගමත සත්‍යයක් නෑ පුග එහෙම කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකේ වුණාට මේ අකුසලුත් එක්ක මිස්සයි. මේවා අකුසල එක්ක මිස්ස නෑ.
So this Satya Vibhanga or the exposition on the truths which is to be found in Majjhima Nikaya. So towards the end of Majjhima Nikaya there is like a section called section on with different expositions. So within that section one of them is called the exposition on the truth. And in connection with wisdom, there is like 5 things mentioned. So it's like hearing and thinking and dividing, or like very specific definitions in order to get what the real truth is, like capital T is.
උත්තානිකම්ම.
ඊට පස්සේ
එතෙන්ට කිව්වේ මගේ.
Okay, so now I forgot something.
ඉතින් ඒක සාරිපුත්තාන්තුනේ දේශනා කරන්නේ මේ විදිහට දැන් පඤ්ඤාවේ විවිධත්වයේ පඤ්ඤාවේ
So anyway, what the point was, Lokam says you can get this understanding that this is not a person and so on, based on rationalizing and just reasoning things out, but that is one actually method, and it does not necessarily or actually quite rarely end up in the realizing kind of understanding that can be acquired if you base your thinking on learning from the scriptures and go through that direction.
පඤ්ඤාව තමයි ඉතින් මේ පඤ්ඤාව තමයි ඔක්කොම ටික. ඒ දැන් පඤ්ඤාවට අයිති නැති දෙයක් හරි අමාරුයි කියන්නේ. උඟ පඤ්ඤාව දැන් සමාධියෙන් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ පඤ්ඤා නරානපතන. ඒ වගේ දේවල් මනසට තියෙනම දේ පඤ්ඤාව. ඉතින් පඤ්ඤාව තමයි මගේ තියෙන්නේ දැන් ලොකුම දෙයක් ඒක මට නම් දැනෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා දෙන්නේ.
So it's
Panya can cope everything.
again I was trying how to so I am struggling with formulation. So it's something like that. There is like you can find threads with wisdom or panya all throughout the Dhamma, and because it's like it was mentioned that this kind of culmination of the practice. So in one place Lokam mentioned as the truly like summit of human qualities is panya, and like there are other places that touch on in some way or another, like they are partially connected or wholly connected with this panya all throughout the teachings.
So මේ ලෞකික වශයෙන් පඤ්ඤාව උගාක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ ලෝකෝත්තර වශයෙන් හැරෙන්න. පඤ්ඤාව ලෞකික පඤ්ඤා ලෝකෝත්තර පඤ්ඤා දෙකක්නේ. ඉතින් ලෞකික පඤ්ඤාව ලෞකික වශයෙන් මේ ගියක් හදන්න දැනගන්න එක නෙවෙයි. ඉදමක් හදන්න දැනගන්න එක නෙමෙයි. මේ ඒව දැනගන්න එකම නෙමෙයි. මේ ලෞකික වශයෙන් මේ ත්‍රිපිටකයෙන් අරගන්න තියෙන ඔක්කොම අරගෙන ඒ දැනුම් සම්භාරේ ඒ පඤ්ඤාවත් එක්ක තියෙන්න ඕනේ ලෝකෝත්තර වෙන්න.
So Lokana said now there are these two kinds of wisdom. One is called like worldly side of wisdom, and the other one is super mundane wisdom, or mundane and super mundane panya. So the mundane wisdom is not the, as Lokana mentioned before, it's not the like knowledge of how to build houses or things like that. No, it's the things that you can find in the scriptures about like ඒ ලෞකිකයේ වගේ නීවරණේව මේ වගේ
නීවරණ
ආයතන මේ වගේ. So there's like the specific things mentioned in the scriptures, things to do with the hindrances and sense basis and all these things, they are like part of the or connected with this worldly or mundane kind of panya. And that all helps one to turn eventually towards the super mundane panya. So this mundane or worldly level of panya or this specific understanding is also assisted and helped by many different things.
චරණ ධර්ම කියලා තියෙන්නේ ඔක්කොම ඒවා විද්‍යා ධර්මය කියලා තියෙනනේ.
So if we consider this Buddha, one of the Buddha's qualities is kind of coupled quality called Vidyacharana Sampanno. He is endowed with conduct and vision. So or vision means this actually specific gnosis or specific understanding, which is another word for this panya or this special understanding. And the conduct is another quality coupled together. So it is this conduct or charana dhamma, so these things that are falling within this conduct that are assisting the wisdom. And those things that are on the side of conduct or like these things that are within the conduct, they need to be practiced.
So චරණ ධර්ම පුරුදු වෙන්නේ නැතුව දැන් මේ යම් දේවල් ගැන මේ සාමාන්‍ය ඉගෙනීමක් අරගෙන එනවා. ඉතින් ඒක ප්‍රඥාවක් නෙමෙයි, ඒක knowledge එක වගේ තියෙන එක.
So if those things that are like training areas of the conduct are not practiced, one can get some information of what is there within the specific understanding, but because the conduct is not really practiced, the specific understanding does not become like realizing understanding, it just becomes kind of information or knowledge one has.
ඒකට විචිකිච්ඡාවනේ. පඤ්ඤාව විචිකිච්ඡා නැත්නම් විචිකිච්ඡාවෙන් තමයි ආරම්භ කරන්නේ.
අර චරණ ධර්ම කෙරුවොත් හොඳ එතම එනවා විචිකිච්ඡා නැත්නම්.
විචිකිච්ඡා නැත්නම්.
චරණ නැතුව
එන්නේ.
So then we have these two scenarios. Somebody is properly training himself in the conduct part, which is supporting the true realizing understanding about these specific things or this specific understanding or panya, and one gets the realizing understanding. So the other person is like lacking or like neglecting the conduct part and acquires some kind of level of like understanding or knowledge or information about those things, but that level is not the realizing understanding. And the difference between those two is the first person that has gone all the way, because he has the true panya, the true realizing understanding, there is no doubt within that person. The doubt is not there. Whereas the other person which has just level of kind of understanding of like information understanding, the doubt is still very much there because he is lacking the true panya, the realizing wisdom.
අතීත ස්කන්ධ පංචක මේ අරගෙන තියෙන විචිකිච්ඡාව නැතුව කුකුස් නැතුව විචිකිච්ඡා අනාගත වර්තමාන එකත් අරන් තියෙන අනාගතය අතගන්නෙත් මේ විදිහ එකක් කියලා අරන් තියෙනවා.
So we can consider this. There were 5 aggregates before this set of 5 aggregates. And after this set of 5 aggregates, there will be probably like future set of 5 aggregates. So the person that has this true wisdom or understanding has no doubt connected with that situation, like the past one, in what way was it, or what became with that it is now, and what is happening with the now ones that are going to the future, and so on. So for the person without doubt, person with true, like, realized understanding, the doubt about those three things are not there, which is not the case with the person that has just like with understanding, like as kind of knowledge or information understanding.
මේ කරුණ අතීතනාගත වර්තමාන කාල තුනදීම එතකොට ස්කන්ධ පංචකය මේ තේරුම් අරන් මේ විදිහේ එකකින් තමයි මේක දැන් හැදලා තින්නේ මේව අනාගතේට හැදෙන්නෙත් මේ විදිහයි කියලා. එතකොට හොඳටම කුකුස් දැක විචිකිච්ඡා මොනවාක් නැතුව පඤ්ඤාව තමයි.
So something like that, the realizing wisdom, the true panya, kind of part of that is understanding the way the five aggregates arose in the past. There is like some nature in that, how it was arising. That there is some nature to that, how it is arising or happening now, and the same kind of principles or something like that is going to be there also in the future. So because of that, there is like no doubt connected with that.
Oh, then අපි කියමුකෝ දැන් අපිට මේ ස්කන්ධ පංචකය කරේ ඒ විදිහට දැන් පඤ්ඤාව හැදිලා තියෙනවා. අතීත අනාගත වර්තමාන එහෙම හැදිලා තියෙනවා කියලා.
So let's say there is somebody that has this kind of specific understanding, this kind of panya about those past aggregates, now aggregates and future aggregates.
ඔය තව කෙනෙක් ඇවිල්ලා කියන්න පුළුවන් ඔබ වාසේ මේ දේ දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා.
So then somebody else might come along and tell this person, listen, you don't have actually any idea about these things.
ස්කන්ධ පංචකය ගැන නෙවෙයි.
So but that is not, Lokam says, it's not about the five aggregates.
ඒක එතකොට මේ එයා ගන්න මේ පඤ්ඤාවෙන් තොරවද කියන එක ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවා.
So this happens අර දෙවෙනි කෙන ප්‍රඥා නැති කෙනෙක්.
ඔව් පඤ්ඤාව නැතුව නෙවෙයි. දැන් අපි කියමුකෝ දැන් විනීත හොඳට මේ කරුණු තුනම දන්නවා. අතීත අනාගත වර්තමාන කරුණු තුනම දන්නවා. දැනගෙන ඉතින් දැන් විනීතගෙන් මම අහනවා මේ විනීත දන්නේ නැති දෙයක් මේ මොකක් හරි එකක්.
ඔව්.
එතකොට මේ පංචස්කන්ධය හැර
හරි.
එතකොට ඒක මේකට අයිති වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක.
හරි. කියන්නේ අර චයිනා වල අර නිල් පාට මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා වගේ.
ඔව් අන්න හරි.
So this now when we what Lokam was trying to I think explain was about wisdom and this, and because he said wisdom means the doubts are not there. So that these doubts or uncertainty is there very specifically with the situation about the five aggregates in the past, now and in the future. This kind of uncertainty or doubts has nothing to do about like knowledge things. So if somebody else comes and asks, like let's say, let's say Vinita has the like panya about the aggregates, and somebody else comes and asks me something that has nothing to do with how the aggregates are working, but something completely like something I don't know. So like I gave example, like there are blue people living in China. So I have like no knowledge about that. So that's a completely different situation because it has nothing to do with the five aggregates at all.
ලෝකෙම 15 දෙනෙක් විතර ඉන්නවා නේද මේකේ? 15ක් විතර ඉන්නවා ලෝකෙ.
Right?
හා. කොහොමද දැන් ඕන අර දැන් ඔක පඤ්ඤාවට අයිති එකක් නෙවෙයි. ඉතින් ඒ වුණාට නා ඒක දන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් මේක දේව දැනගන්න එක පඤ්ඤාවක් කියලා හිතන. ඒක පඤ්ඤාව නෙවෙයි කියන්නේ.
So anyway, this knowledge or information about things, again, as was mentioned before, is actually not considered as this specific wisdom or panya. So not knowing those things is not considered as a lack of panya.
ඔය කාන්තාර හරි උස්නයි. හරිම ඉන්නවත් බැරි කුඩැල්ලෝ ඉන්නවා.
So like Lokan saying, like deserts, I think he's talking about one specific desert. But anyway, the desert he's talking about is a desert. So it's an extremely hot place, but somehow there are leeches there. So then if you say somebody, like, have you heard about these leeches living in the desert? Then the person asked might be like reluctant to accept this and like tell you like what kind of nonsense you are talking about.
ඒක ලෝකේ තියෙන දේක් මිනිස්සු හොයාගෙන බුදුහාඳුර ලෝකයේ ලෝකෙන් අයින් වෙන ක්‍රමයක් හොයාගෙන පඤ්ඤාව.
So now this is the two things that happen, like people in general search and find out different things about the world, but this like the story about the leeches in the desert. Whereas the Buddha, he found the things about the world that help to transcend the world. So that should be enough. May you be protected by the Triple Gem. Thanks for listening. May you be well and happy.